KFAN.
Hey, good morning, PA, Pete, Nordo, Steve in Kansas City. I got to tell you, I would really be excited to see the Vikings go for a running back. Been watching some highlights of Adrian Peterson lately, and man, I would love to see them again have a dangerous back that's a threat to go 80 yards at any moment. Now, there probably isn't anybody like AP in the draft, but maybe there's another Dalvin Cook out there. We just really haven't had that since Dalvin was let go. So I'd love to see him go for a running back. Thanks.
What's up, PA, Nordo, and the Master Bursich? And good morning. Regarding positions of need or who we should be drafting, just take the best dang player available. We need somebody that we draft that actually plays on the team. Anybody that's good, any position, kicker, water boy, anything that's playable.
Nords, great work with the talkbacks. And just in case people missed an hour ago, we are doing a Talkback Tuesday. It has a sponsor tied to it. Who is the sponsor? What is the prize?
Yeah, Talker Tuesdays for the rest of 2026 are brought to you by Northern Fire Grilling and Barbecue Supply.
Sweet.
And so talkbacks with the free iHeartRadio app, as you heard there, it's simple. You just press record, give us up to 30 seconds. But each Tuesday, somebody's going to win the tastiest talkback and a $25 gift card to Northern Fire. They can use it online or in store in Minnetonka. So thank you, Northern Fire. And thank you all of the talkbackers with some elite names. How about
Sweet.
Max and Egan last segment setting you up with an idea for Mr. Jordan Reed. The Rubes are on it and pumped for this draft.
Yeah, and you know, A, because you've been to the Combine, but B, I mean, you've been next to me / the team and 9 to noon for a decade plus. We don't pretend to break down all 22 of Oklahoma playing Trinity.
That's correct.
We don't pretend to call. We're not calling these elite college minds year round to try to get the steam. What we do is we come to the Combine and we use the discernment that God gave us. And we leave with certain names to which we become married right up to the draft. So, I mean, as of right now, Oregon safety, Dylan Thieneman, safety, sounds like he'd be great for us. Tight end Kenyon Sadiq, sounds like he'd be great for us. And our second segment guest, Emmett Johnson. I mean, who doesn't want Emmett Johnson on the Minnesota Vikings? So I got 3 players already.
Yeah. Lee Hunter might be a good interior pass rusher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got it down. We're done.
Well,
we're good.
We haven't heard his voice yet, but somewhere Charch is watching 8 YouTube videos of Emmett Johnson, and will make him his prized pick for early day 2 for the Purple, right?
Well, Charch just texted me from a rest stop outside of St. George, Utah. I have no idea why he goes to rest stops in a state where he lives, but nevertheless, he said, I'm listening to the Combine, and I wish I was there, and I heard a lot of things about Lee Hunter, but I just broke down film on Arkansas defensive tackle Cameron Ball, and I think he might be the best defensive tackle ever.
So this is kind of just a Combine, almost like a tune-up, and I'm so glad that I got you there and Indy Pete. Is just as we get through the Combine this week and we find some of those names that you mentioned, Thieneman, it's Emmett, we'll leave Indianapolis, or you will, with a bunch of ideas into April's draft.
Thieneman has to be him.
It's just him or nothing at this stage until the next name in about an hour with Greg Cosell.
Well, let's be serious. You know how I operate, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I had the Oregon kicker next to me on a 90-minute plane flight talking about players on his team. And are you kidding me?
That's awesome.
That he's there, and now we exchange numbers, and most of what we talked about was biblical stuff and theology. But when we talked about football players against whom he played, he's a giant Will Reichert fan. Absolutely giant. They've known each other for 3 years. This guy is going to be on a team next year, Atticus Sappington. And what he was saying about the safety from Oregon, Dylan Thieneman, I mean, the guy sounds legitimately like he'd be great in Flores' defense. So it's too perfectly put together by design for me to just look past what I was told. So this is my guy. I'm 92% not changing it up to the draft. I'm not asking anybody who they're going to take. I'm just going to roll with my flying partner from Minneapolis to Indianapolis. Now, what do you have up your sleeve?
Yeah, so just kind of laying it out, and I'm going to direct this towards you, Pete, is into free agency, into the draft. We know about the cap concerns. They got levers to pull, and they will do so. And I'm not asking for the final name today, but that's what the Combine's for. And as we get there, we'll learn more about a ton of these guys as we get closer to the draft. But simply enough, Pete, kind of the idea is, do we got them or do we need them? And just looking at these position groups and kind of the depth of them and what you saw in 2025, starting kind of a difficult one, or maybe it's an easy one from your mindset. Do we got them or do we need them when it comes to the linebacker spots? Both Eric Wilson and Ivan Pace, one restricted in Pace, but a UF unrestricted opportunity for Mr. Wilson, both coming up from a linebacking core. When you look at men in the middle, we know about Cashman. But as far as our roster goes, the other two are potentially open to going to other teams, Pete. Do we got him or do we need him in terms of either securing Eric Wilson or paying attention to some inside linebackers in the draft?
I think here's the thing. Eric Wilson was a much bigger part of what this defense was about than I even remembered. I went back, watched most of the season. Eric Wilson was a huge playmaker, and if he wasn't the guy making the play, he was letting guys around him make the play. And to the point, he was so effective and so versatile to the point where Josh Metellus became less of a featured. Yeah, Josh was nicked up, but Metellus became kind of less of a featured person in this whole, in this whole thing. When we were down a couple outside linebackers, Van Ginkel for a while, Grenard later in the season, it was Eric Wilson that would walk out and play outside linebacker. He was moving all over the place. His productivity was enormous. To get that level of productivity out of him again would be fantastic. Can you do it? Is again 31 years old. He's playing as a free agent. There's a lot of motivation there. Can you sign him for 2 years, 3 years, and get that kind of production out of him for the next 2 or 3 years? That I don't know. The guy certainly on the hoof looks like it because he's is in good a shape as anybody I've seen wearing a purple jersey. If not, we need that guy. Right, I think we definitely need that position. Ivan Pace, he's a good run defender, good interior blitzer, but he's faded. These young guys, then they come in, you make a mark, and a lot of times, I'm not saying this is the case with Ivan Pace, but he comes from obscurity as an undrafted guy to becoming a starter. And it's such a huge leap, and it's such an accomplishment that sometimes they think that's it. Well, all you did was get on the field. That's a huge leap. I'm not taking that away from him, but you still have to continue to get better. You still have to continue to become a better football player day in and day out. And so for Ivan Pace, the advancement from college to his rookie year or second year, that was a huge leap. But now he's plateaued. And I think Eric Wilson came in and showed everybody, and especially showed this defense, what's possible at that spot and what's needed there. So in free agency, that would be a place that you're looking for. But that he kind of changed this defense in that regard, where that linebacker spot was a little bit more featured, moved around a little bit more, rushed the passer a little bit more. So Eric Wilson was a huge. I think I guess I can't say enough how important he really was for this defense last year.
Yeah, he's tremendous, and he has to be a priority. I hope from our favorite team.
Well, either him or somebody like him, and that's the thing is if you don't get another Eric Wilson, then where else can you find that? Where else can you find that spot? And that's where safety. You could use that. You have a safety that may be able to get after the passer a little bit. That are more of an inside-outside linebacker type guy. I mean, that productivity needs to be replaced.
Do we got him or do we need him? This one's a little difficult for me, gentlemen, because I love Ryan Kelly, but I'm also just very uneasy about the idea of rolling back into 2026 with somebody that showed some serious issues regarding concussions. and just playing that out in terms of what the depth behind him then looks like. You got Juergens, you got Brandel, a couple of guys that were forced into spots with mixed results, certainly throughout 2025. If the Vikings move on from him, I believe if they were to release him, they'll save about $8 million. This is per spot rack. They would save about $8 million in cap space in 2026 if they did indeed decide to move on from him. But our starting center in 2026, do we got him or do we need him?
I think we need him. You take a look at the number of games that he missed, and you have to project that going forward because he's not getting any younger. Yeah. Right. So you have to seriously go, okay, $8 million a year for a guy that we might have half the season. And then you take a look at the free agents, the top free agents. Tyler Linderbaum's out there. But I don't know if you can afford him or if you want to pay him as much as he's probably going to get. Buffalo, Connor McGovern, Cade Mays from Carolina, Luke Fortner from New Orleans. So there are some free agent possibilities out there that maybe if you could swap that contract and find another veteran. The other thing, and Ben Lieber and I talked about this morning, is just when you're drafting 18, you have 4 picks in the top 100, you can probably get yourself a good center. Now, Ben brought up the point of having a rookie center with a younger quarterback, if that's a good matchup. But then again, that's why it says coach. You have coaches out there. You have 25 of them. They need to get these guys ready to go and ready to play. But consistency, not just at the center position, but at the quarterback position. I mean, those at the tackle position. I mean, how many different variations of our offensive line did we see in and out all throughout the season? I mean, those are things that have to be addressed. And unfortunately, for his health and for his long-term health, it's a very serious thing. This isn't. He's got a bad foot and he's going to play until he's done. This is something more bigger than that. So you definitely need a plan at center. Now, whether Juergens or Brandel, maybe with a whole entire training camp at that position and getting a lot of snaps, if they can get to the point where they maybe can handle half of a schedule, we'll see.
Hey, Pete, one more for you here. While you were cleaning up that gallon of coffee that you spilled.
No, I didn't spill it. It was you did. It was a Curly. Harris decided to pick up a sign and not look what was on it. And it was like the Exxon Valdez. I mean, There was just stuff everywhere. So it was absolutely not me.
Okay.
Wow. It was Curly.
Well, while you were helping
Michael Harris, by the way.
While you were helping with the cleanup of that,
yes.
I was playing some talkbacks, Talker Tuesday, Northern Fire, and what do you like into the draft? And the Rubes are heavy on running back. And I'll admit that has not been something that I've spent a lot of my mental space kind of looking down the road for, in terms of, Jeremiah Love probably gone, et cetera. PA had that great segment with Emmett Johnson, and we've kind of, mixed that back into the conversation throughout. But you have Jordan Mason, I thought very productive. Almost, you just wish you could have got maybe more opportunities for him.
Yeah, I think we got out of Jordan Mason what we expected.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones, sadly only available for 12 games. We love Aaron Jones and the versatility of what he can do, but certainly at 31 years old, a little bit spendier. I think, final year of his deal coming up. Is running back something that you're keeping on the list as you prepare things for the draft? Is that truly an option for the Purple, and is it potentially a good option?
Yes, we absolutely. You don't know. Ty Chandler has had plenty of opportunities. Just hasn't really, carved himself out a niche, if you will.
I'm a niche guy myself.
Nora, in that regard, you're looking at the free agents, and again, when you look at free agency, of course, everybody wants Bryce Hall. You want all the great ones, or you want the number 1 and number 2, but you can't pay all that kind of money.
Bryce Hall's a free agent?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
But what I'm saying is, a guy like Kenneth Gainwell, who we saw play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we saw him in Ireland. He's a third down type of a back. He flexed out in the slot 40 or 50 times, I think, last year. Played Wildcat sometimes at quarterback. Third down back, had 33 receptions, 253 yards, 16 first downs as a receiver. That's the kind, so a free agent like him might be, and if you can't get a Gainwell, then yes, absolutely in the draft, you're going to have to, you need to find someone who's a difference maker at that position, and that's the running game in and of itself. If there's one area of this offense that hasn't been really consistent, it's just the scheme. What's our identity? What are we trying to do in the running game? And so they need a running back to fit whatever it is that they're going to do. But, I mean, when you see C.J. Ham in for protection on third down, that's a big deal, right?
I agree.
Those are holes that need to be filled. You need to find someone who can protect and take a linebacker down the middle on a third down situation, and you also need a guy. And with Kevin O'Connell, you see it's part of his DNA is to get that running back one-on-one with a mismatch, a linebacker, somebody in space, run a wheel route, do all those different things. He knows how to put that person in a position to succeed. So someone like a Gainwell, in my opinion, would be a great fit.
All righty. Thank you, Nordo, and we will chat with you later. Coming up for the rest of today's Combine show from Indianapolis and the Convention Center, you can expect about 20 minutes from now Field Yates from ESPN, draft analyst, at about 11 o'clock Central. Greg Cosell from NFL Films. That's an elite football mind. He will be on site. Then Leslie Frazier, former Vikings head coach and defensive coordinator, current assistant head coach for the Seattle Seahawks. He will join in the final segment of the radio show. Keep this in mind if you're looking for something to which you can listen tomorrow. Kevin O'Connell will be on the 9 to noon show tomorrow. Likewise for acting general manager Rob Brzezinski, Atlanta Falcons head coach Kevin Stefanski. He'll be on the show tomorrow, as will former Minnesota Vikings quarterback Jeff George. Jeff George and I reunited over the last month and change, and he lives in Indianapolis, and he's out of town a lot, but he's going to be in town for 9 to noon on Wednesday, and he's going to come into the convention center once we get him credentialed and share some wonderful stories with Jeff George, an unbelievably cool guy and guest. That'll be tomorrow. When we return to the Combine, we're going to chat with Craig Peters from Vikings.com. Don't leave.
PA, Bursich, Norda, what's up? Kyle from Arsani here. Excited for the draft. I think the Vikings should take a look at center since Kelly with the health concerns. Jake Slaughter out of Florida. Love the name, but he's also a beast. 6'4". Guy's got great pass blocking. I know you don't want a young center and a young quarterback, but hey, if we got Joe Burrow, more likely Kirk Cousins, as long as he has that sweaty butt cheeks, I think Kirk will do fine handing it up from him.
Jake Slaughter. Okay, we'll take him. Thank you for the talkback. Very conscientious listeners today with those talkbacks. And we also thank Craig Peters, the senior editor with Vikings.com. The Combine trip is annual for him. You'll be able to read and follow his work at Vikings.com. And he's here with us before Field Yates from ESPN joins. Thanks for joining the show. And Indianapolis, tell us why Indianapolis always will be very special for you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back. A long time ago, when I was a young Cub, you could volunteer on the NFL PR staff and come to the Super Bowl and help transcribe, help media logistics, all this and all that. Very first one I got to do was the one that was hosted by Indianapolis. Giants, Patriots, great game. Just electric finish.
Yeah.
The caveat for that deal was you kind of had to figure out lodging on your own.
Oh.
And so I'm in Tennessee at the time, and I'm like, well, I mean, that transportation's easy. That's a quick drive, right? Up 65. And a close friend was like, you can just stay with my aunt and uncle.
Wow.
Never met these people before.
For how long?
Like 8-9 days. Yeah.
You stay with people you don't know for 8 days.
Yes.
And you got out alive.
And they're still great, dear friends.
Wow.
15, 16 years later, just people that fundamentally change your life. The dad and the daughter of that family actually came to the Vikings Colts Sunday night game.
Wow.
That we had at US Bank Stadium that was so special. You know?
How'd that one turn out?
Yeah, that was good. It was electric.
33 zip, that one?
No. The one where Jamie Erdahl sounded the yellow horn and then started the 9-game win streak.
Well, with Craig, Craig is not of the betting variety. Doesn't matter to him a lick. But I'm going to lay out an over-under right now and see which way you go with it. Over-under so we have 18 combine segments, okay, over 2 days. And we are 4 into it. The over-under on the amount of times Pete Bursich violently hits his knee on the leg of this table. I'm going to lay the over-under at 5.5. We're already at 3. Which way do you go?
Oh, yeah, you got to go over at this point. Because,
why do you keep doing that?
This is like 3 per hour right now. Like we got some next gen on this, or
yeah, right.
We're going to have to contact
GSIS.
the training staff members who made the trip to Indy.
Yeah,
get it. He's
excited.
Ice, little tape.
Yeah,
I feel bad for him because I really do have a degree of empathy, because I've done that before. But as he pointed out, it gives a little more than the press box surroundings when we're little shoehorned into some of the tighter radio booths.
What do you mean? That's right.
Meadowlands.
Oh, that's right. Craig assumed the role on road games this year, or most of them, being what we call the numbers guy, where he points to the numbers after each play, and he does stats for the KFAN Minnesota Vikings vast and ever-expanding audio network. How did that go for you last year? And eventually, you weren't nervous. Eventually, you felt like you settled in, right?
One of the things I got to do last year, first of all, is a tremendous honor. So you're very grateful, and you know how many people in the world would love to be sitting in that seat, right? So there's a lot of gratitude, right?
I've been doing it for 20 years. It's overrated.
Well, to me, it's still fresh and young, right?
Yeah.
Was
it fresh and young when you missed the Addison in Ireland by 10 yards?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that was bad. Yeah. The mental math involved when you cross the 50.
Yeah.
And then some games, it feels like 90% of the game. I feel like Seattle was just between the 40s for so long. And I'm like, all right, carry this, do this, subtract here, add there.
Yeah. One of my favorite Craig Peters moments from pointing at the yardage numbers and stats was when we were at Seattle and Brosmer threw it to Ernie Jones the fourth.
Oh, God.
And he was so upset that it was a pick six by the other team going the wrong way. I looked at him for like a yardage thing, and his face was just red because he didn't have the number, but he was mad at the play.
He had plenty of time. We had enough time. We have it on video. I was standing up.
Oh, the best.
I had enough time to stand up, walk over, sit down, and then put my head on the desk before he got himself into the end zone.
Right.
So he had about 20. It was
but that
20 seconds of torture.
But that should be good for you, because when you were a linebackers coach for the Vikings in 2002, you remember the Sean Alexander screen touchdown in the first half. Red McCombs calling the play, going, "Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! It's on the safety. Chavis, no touchdown, Seattle." That screen to Sean Alexander took about a minute and a half.
And I believe that was the game that our headsets went out. The coaches up in the booth, and so for pretty much the second half of the football game,
of course they did.
We just had to sit up there and watch, and we just knew Mike was still yelling at us. I don't think we need the headphones to hear it. To hear him.
That is less than ideal.
That's even worse. When you see things and you can't do anything because the headphones were completely shut off.
All right.
Well, one of the odd jobs I had in college was intramural reffing basketball games, and they were pretty intense. And the hardest call to make was like the tip out of bounds, right? You're like, I don't, like, let's just pick one. So when you have a tip interception thing that's not really, the play is cattywampus from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I didn't see the yard right away, and I'm like, "Where's the replay? Where did he catch this ball?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and that's going against us, and it stinks.
And the fact that you guys still talk to me even after that,
come on, man,
is an example of your grace. So
we got a couple to close here. Sure. Rob Brzezinski, the acting general manager, is going to be on the radio show tomorrow. We all know Rob really well. Rob's very excited about this opportunity. What do you know about Rob, and what do you like about what's happening right now?
Well, I know that I've had the pleasure of working with Rob in the organization for about half of his tenure, and I know the people that predated me spoke highly of him. I know that interactions that I've had with him have been amazing, starting in 2014 when I joined the Vikings. And he has a sincere passion for the Vikings organization and for people. One of the things in sitting with the interviews that the Skull Stories did with the feature on Jared Allen, I was in Rob's office for that interview, and he's just a tremendous believer in people, right? And just a reaffirmer of people. And I think that those qualities will be really helpful in his effort to provide continuity during a time of a big change, right? So it's so he kept his 27th year with the organization last season, 33rd in the NFL. So there's nothing pretty much at this point he hasn't been around for and been exposed to, right?
Yeah. And he's kind of been a victim of his own success in the regard to the cap deal. Yeah. Because that's what he's known for, right? He's the capologist, but there's so much more that he does. He's known for that, but that's not his only role, and that's not all that he does.
Perfectly stated.
Yeah. And just seeing the job that he did at the lectern during the funeral of Paul Wiggin, he was invited to speak, and he delivered just a beautiful remarks, this blend of humor, this blend of impact of someone who was with the organization for 40 seasons. I mean, that is. Not everyone can make that kind of impact, and for Rob to be here and appreciate every step, every opportunity with Coach Wiggin. A lot of people still called him Coach, because that's where he started with the organization. But between that, and then I'll also point out that he also was selected by staff, like including the business side, for the Dennis Ryan Vikings Values Award last year, and that's an example of the relationship elements that are so important to him. Anyone in the organization will be uplifted by this, by Rob. You know, and it's just kind of innate in nature of who he is, and it's so appreciated.
Yeah, no doubt. And you'll hear him tomorrow 9 to noon. All right, a minute, you get it all. As senior editor for Vikings.com, at the website Vikings.com, with what you're putting together, or some things Tatum Everett is doing here, like this Daniel Jeremiah NFL Network interview I just saw, what can people expect when they go to your site?
Well, yeah, thanks so much. Well, first of all, as you know, we have Lindsey Young and we have Rob Kleifeld as our editorial team as well, and so we're going to be consolidating some of these interviews, make them thematic, group them together, get some real good talking points as the Vikings are heading into free agency and the draft. Mock Draft Tracker number 3 came out. We're every 2 weeks of those taking the roundups. Some of the names that you guys have mentioned are frequent there in the latest edition. So a lot of people are projecting defensive back on the first round side of things. So we're definitely going to be interested in watching that cluster of players here in Indy and kind of follow along. It's the offseason kind of moves quicker than anyone ever thinks, because we go boom, 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 and you get excited about free agency coming up, and then there's a nice window to introduce those new Vikings. The coaching staff is going to have some new faces, so we'll work on introducing those as well, and just really the whole team building process. So
excellent.
It's exciting times.
You're fantastic. God bless you, brother.
So much.
Thank you. Craig Peters with Vikings.com. When we return, Field Yates with ESPN on the NFL Draft and more from the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. This is 9 to noon. To the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine with Pete Bursich. I'm Paul Allen. Field Yates is a draft analyst for ESPN. Follow him via X at Field Yates, and he's nice enough to join us now before he gets to the Combine. Field, welcome to the radio show, and how are things for you and your family?
Things are great. Thanks for having me on.
Right on, my brother. This draft coming up, you're far down the road on it. We had your counterpart and cohort Jordan Reed on the show about an hour ago. When do you guys start compiling or film watching or getting the steam from background information and stuff like that? I mean, this is a year-round thing, right?
Yeah, the 2027 draft prep is almost underway, at least on my end. The reality is that you could probably spend every day from the end of the 2026 NFL draft getting ready for the 2027 NFL draft and maybe not be ready for everything by the time the draft arrives in Washington, D.C. next April. I kind of equate it in some ways to like studying for, I never took one of these tests, but studying for the MCAT or the LSAT, one of those higher level educational degrees. Right, there's probably no such thing as too much preparation, but the wheels are spinning usually the beginning portion of May, but the pressure is a lot different. In May, you're just sort of looking at names and sort of seeing the potential in players, but then the season actually begins, and that's notable this year because there were lots of quarterbacks that had the potential to be pretty notable contributors to the 2026 NFL draft class. And in the case of some of them, like players such as Lenora Sellers and Arch Manning, they've gone back to school for one more season. In the case of others like Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck, they are in this year's draft. They just aren't expected to go nearly as high as they probably hoped for a year or even 2 years ago.
A field with the transfer portal and NIL. We're looking at some of these players who 5 years ago, 6 years ago started at Maryland, then they go to Florida State, then they end up at Virginia Tech. Does that make what you do more difficult? And how do you think it segues to the NFL? Because like if I'm a coach, a general manager, or a personnel person, I'm definitely looking into, okay, why did you keep jumping? Is there a problem?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question to ask. Is there a reason behind? What was the motivation behind all of these jumps? One thing I would note, though, is I think scouts are getting more and more used to this. This is the reality that in a lot of cases, these decisions are pretty straightforward. You go somewhere and somebody else offers you the opportunity to make more money the year later. And for some of these players, depending on your background, this is life altering, not just for you, but for your family, potentially generations of family if you use this money correctly. So I think it's kind of becoming more and more the norm. And I would say as far as how it changes the scouting process for me, it's kind of twofold. One is that there are more players who kind of arise out of nowhere because another path for players to continue to transfer is that they just don't end up in the right spot, the right system, the right scheme, the right fit, whatever it might be. And they start to thrive kind of during their later portions of their career, their final seasons even. There's a kid, Kevin Coleman, wide receiver from Missouri this year, who really good player, going to go somewhere on day 3. And this was kind of his breakout season. It took until that 4th year for him to get there. But, now he's looking like a pretty darn good player at the NFL level. And then the other thing I would say is that, you do see guys who just sort of fit into particular schemes better. So it changes the process a little bit, but the truth is that you're kind of doing your best to keep tabs on players every single month, every single season, regardless of whether they've stayed at the same school and play within the same system or not, throughout the entirety of their college career.
Field, how important is the combine still? I mean, compared to, let's say, 10 years ago, is it every bit as important as it used to be, or is there more to it now? I mean, I'm talking about these 2 or 3 days that these athletes spend here to answer questions, to run 40s, to do those. I mean, do the numbers still matter as much as they used to?
Well, there are definitely ways in which they do matter, and there are ways in which some people would say the event is a little bit different, right? I mean, that's reflected in the fact that, I don't know if there was a time, 20 years ago when a team ever considered not going to the combine, but you've got teams that now don't even bother showing up at the GM and the head coach level. And that's totally fine, right? I mean, the Rams have been no less successful recently because of the fact that they have not had their head coach at the combine, or I think in some cases even their GM, Les Snead. Same deal for the Jaguars now, and Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. But I still think the core of the event is a couple of the tentacles. Obviously, the height, weight, speed, that stuff is not just relevant for this year, but it's a good data point to compare against, 50 years of data that we have. So if you're a wide receiver who runs a 4.35, we know because we've had thousands of receivers over the years run that 40-yard dash. It's an excellent time. If you're a wide receiver that runs 4.62, we can point to data and says that over the past 50 years, X number of receivers at 4.6 or above have really panned out in the NFL. So there is value there. And the medical side of it is so important as well. It's kind of the one opportunity for the NFL teams to get The medical information it's consistent across every prospect, and available because there are other leagues like the NBA where prospects are not required to release all their medical information. So, and there are certain NBA teams that are playing with a stacked deck. And then finally, the interviews, they're so important. It's an opportunity to meet a player, learn a little bit about how that player is wired, what motivates him, what his football character is. And that's something that shouldn't, in the case of every prospect, supersede the tape. The tape should always be the baseline, but it can be a contributing factor to the evaluation. It can make you feel more confident, or in some cases less confident, that your football evaluation matches with what you expect that player to be like on a day in and day out basis if he's in your building.
Field, tell us about offensive tackle Monroe Freeling. I believe he played at Georgia, 6'7", 315. And Field tweeted, but I think I saw this on TV, that he doesn't have extensive experience, but correct me if I'm wrong here, this Monroe Freeling is you say he has the highest upside of any offensive tackle in the class. What do you mean?
Yeah, I do believe that. And I think if you look at some of the offensive tackles who are coming out in this year's draft class, CC Maui Noah, for example, out of University of Miami, and Spencer Fano from University of Utah, and his teammate Caleb Lomu, and some of the other players that are going to go really high at offensive tackle, some of them have less than ideal measurables and maybe not as premier of athletes as Monroe Freeling is, who measurables are not the only thing that matters, but he's 6'7", 315 pounds. He's got 35-inch arms. He's just an outstanding athlete with great size as well. I mean, Vikings fans know very well what it's like to have, a player that can be one of the best at his position in the NFL, playing left tackle, Christian Darrisaw. And part of what makes Christian so great is he is this exceptional athlete as well. So with Monroe, he is basically a full year starter for one season with a handful of starts in the second season at Georgia. It sometimes does show up. There are areas in which he still looks like he needs some more experience. But, part of the draft, to me, the reality of it is that you're not taking these players with the sole intent to win week one with these players on your roster, right? The goal is to develop players over time that can be longtime pillars of your franchise. And I think that Monroe Freeling, in the right scheme, with the right offensive line coach, and a team that's willing to be patient, because it might take him some time. He's a third-year player in college. He is going to be a player that can develop into an excellent, excellent left tackle if he kind of has the right path and track ahead of him.
Another guy that we've heard a lot about, talked a lot about, wanted to get your thoughts on Dylan Finneman, safety from Oregon. Seems like we're going down the Oregon path quite a bit here today, so I didn't know. Give us your insights on him.
Oh, that's another reality of all these transfers. A lot of these guys end up at some of the similar schools or just have some exposure at these schools. But Dylan Finneman is an exceptional, exceptional athlete. He began his college career at Purdue, played there for 2 seasons. His brothers also football players at Purdue, and his true freshman season, Dylan had 6 interceptions. He looked like, he was primed to become one of the best players in Purdue's history, and that's not hyperbole based off of how he performed during his true freshman season. He ended up at Oregon this past year. He had a pair of interceptions. He is extremely versatile. He can be a free safety. He can cover in the slot a little bit. You've heard some of the nickel opportunities here for Dylan. He's a hypercharged athlete. He's got good size, not blow you away size. I do think some of the open field tackling has to be cleaned up for Dylan, but he is going to fare extremely well in the athletic testing portion of the combine. He should just have a good week overall in Indianapolis. And I think that probably one of the reasons why Dylan's being mentioned with the Vikings is, of course, the looming retirement, we believe, or at least the uncertain future of Harrison Smith, who has been an exceptional player for the Vikings for so long. And some of the things that we saw from Harrison, I think, also stand out for Dylan. So not a perfect one-to-one comparison, but there are some ways in which those two players have some similarities, and that's probably one of the reasons why Minnesota seems like a relatively prime spot for them.
All righty, just a couple more for Field Yates, draft analyst for ESPN. So either mesh free agency or the draft with the Vikings, Field, however you want. 18th pick to start things, currently over the cap, but that can be fixed. How can you make the Vikings better into 2026?
Well, I think the most important thing is having some sort of quarterback plan, whatever that is. And I would say that I defer to Kevin O'Connell when it comes to quarterback expertise and brilliance. And so if he feels as though the best path forward for the Vikings is to develop J.J. McCarthy further, give him a full shot to be the guy this year, hope that he stays healthy, he has full faith and confidence in J.J., then I would say that's my plan. If he feels as though the best course of action is to bring a veteran quarterback in that could challenge J.J., not be handed the job, but challenge J.J. for the job, if that veteran wins it, he begins the season as the starting quarterback, then I would do that. And so, I tend to lean towards the more likely path, bringing in some level of veteran competition. But they do need to do that. And I think last year was probably a reminder, or at least a suggestion. Like, they need to get younger on defense, I believe, as well. Some pieces on defense that really shined last year, obviously, and some young guys that are making some real strides. Dallas Turner amongst them, and Jalen Redford in the middle. Redmond in the middle, but I just think there are a couple of pieces that they're probably away on defense in the youth category that would go a long way to make them, I think, a team that can get right back into that playoff mix. I mean, the fact that they finished the way that they did last year is a good sign of a strong culture. They could have easily, sort of basically said we're 1, 2, 3 Cabo and planned for, a 5-12 finish and had a top 10 overall pick or something like that. But, the way they finished strong last year, I think, is a sign of a team that has an excellent head coach that establishes a culture day in and day out that leads me to believe that we're going to have, a bounce back season where 9-8 is a good year for Minnesota. But I think that a couple of years prior, maybe closer to what they expect season in and season out.
And lastly for Field,
Eric Wilson, huge impact for the Vikings defense last year. Give me your take on the linebackers this season, and not necessarily the guys that are pass coverage guys. I'm on guys that can blitz and get after the quarterback and stop the run. Who tops your list this season?
Yeah, good draft class for linebackers in general. There's 5 that I think have a real shot to go in the top 75. I think that there's a pretty strong case that both C.J. Allen from Georgia and, of course, Sonny Styles from Ohio State go in the first round of this upcoming NFL draft. Styles, a former safety turned linebacker and just an excellent player. C.J. Allen, a third-year player at Georgia, a great quarterback for that defense, extremely smart, excellent athlete. He is a very high floor, but I also think high ceiling prospect who will go in the first round. But a guy that I think might be, the second round or maybe even early third round that I think is pretty intriguing that fits more of that old school thumping role would be a guy like Josiah Trotter, who is the son of former Eagles linebacker Jeremiah Trotter, and the younger brother, of course, of Eagles current linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. The younger Jeremiah Trotter, who was drafted a couple of seasons ago out of Clemson, was this fluid, sort of weak side linebacker who does his best work in space and some pass coverage. Josiah Trotter, Missouri, the younger brother, he must have gotten pushed around by his older brother a lot as a kid because he's a tough dude. He is not afraid to initiate contact and take on offensive linemen and do some dirty work and make a bunch of tackles along the way. So he would be a name of a guy that I think has some old school nature to him.
And with that Field Yates via X, he recently tweeted Sonny Styles, who he just mentioned, amazingly missed just 2 tackles in 2025, and he was involved in a lot of tackles. Holy cow. Field, you are
17
so
in
good
2024, so it was a big bounce back year for Sonny in that category.
You are so good at what you do, man, on TV, ESPN.com, radio, and everything. Thank you for being so gracious. Have a wonderful day. Maybe we'll see you out here, okay?
Sounds great, guys. Looking forward to it. Take care.
Thanks,
right,
bud.
take care.
Field Yates, ESPN draft analyst. Greg Cosell is coming up next from the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. He's the executive producer and analyst for NFL Matchup. We'll talk free agency and draft with Greg Cosell after the